Arsenal's parade was never just about silverware. It was about something older, harder to manufacture, and far more valuable. Belonging. You could read the season through stats, tactics, and turning points, but the parade told a different story, one that lives in streets and not spreadsheets. On days like this, North London stops behaving like a normal part of a global city and starts behaving like a shared organism. Roads don't just fill with fans, they become meeting points for memory. People who might never speak to each other in any other context suddenly move in rhythm, singing the same chants, reacting to the same bus, carrying the same emotional vocabulary. That's culture, doing what it has always done best, binding strangers into something loosely unified but deeply felt. The scale mattered, but not in the way headlines like to frame it. It wasn't simply hundreds of thousands turn up. It was that so many different versions of Arsenal showed up in the same place at the same time. Old season ticket holders, kids on shoulders, diaspora fans reconnecting through screens and flags, locals who inherited allegiance rather than choosing it. Football at its purest, intergenerational memory passed through noise. Arsenal's modern identity has been shaped in contradiction, global brand, local heartbeat. That tension is often discussed as a commercial asset, but it becomes something else entirely on days like this. The Emirates era could have detached the club from its surroundings. Instead, what the parade revealed is a reverse effect. Success has re-embedded the club into the civic imagination of North London. The route itself told the story. Not a stadium-centric loop, but a spill outward into lived neighborhoods. The kind of geography where allegiance isn't performed but inherited. Streets like Holloway Road and Upper Street are not neutral spaces. They are cultural corridors where Arsenal is part of daily language. Clubs don't just exist in stadiums. They exist in shop conversations, barber chairs, church pew discussions, schoolyard debates. The parade simply made visible what already existed. There's a tendency to describe fan bases as support. That word is too soft. What Arsenal demonstrated is closer to infrastructure. Infrastructure holds pressure. It absorbs disappointment. It carries expectation across years without collapsing. It survives managerial cycles, transfer windows, and European heartbreaks. Even after a Champions League final defeat the night before, the streets still filled. Not because disappointment was erased, no, but because identity was stronger than outcome. That's a key distinction often missed in modern football analysis. Results change moods, but culture determines continuity. A weaker community disperses after loss. A stronger one reorganizes around meaning. There's a tension at the heart of contemporary clubs like Arsenal. They are global businesses competing in elite financial ecosystems, yet they are still judged locally in emotional terms that no balance sheet can capture. The parade exposed that paradox beautifully. On one hand, high-performance athletes, data-driven recruitment, continental ambition. On the other, children on railings screaming at open-top buses like it's 1998 all over again. Both realities are true at the same time. That coexistence is what makes football unusual among modern institutions. It is one of the few remaining spaces where hyper-modern systems still depend on pre-modern emotional rituals. Parades are not new. They are ancient civic theater. Rome had them. So did medieval towns after victories. Football just inherited the format and scaled it. This is not simply a club in form, it is a club in cultural consolidation. Winning the league after 2 decades doesn't just end a drought, it resets generational perception. A child who grew up hearing about almost seasons now has a reference point of arrival. That shift is subtle but permanent. And permanence is what clubs quietly compete for beneath all the noise. Not just trophies, but time-based legitimacy. the ability to be remembered in multiple eras without losing identity. The parade confirms that Arsenal is no longer just rebuilding, it is rerouting. Long after the bus passed, the real spectacle remained on the pavements. People who didn't know each other staying longer than necessary, as if leaving would break something fragile. Now that is the real measure of a football club's cultural power. Not how loud it gets when it wins, but how long the community lingers after the noise fades. Trophies are lifted in minutes. Culture takes years to build, and even longer to fully understand. Arsenal didn't just parade a title. It revealed a city briefly remembering how to belong to itself through football.
London, England. Say England I get rid again. Turn it up and make it spread again. Wake them up out of the bed again. Arsenal they in the bed again. Oh, London get rid again. Turn it up and make it spread again. Wake them up out of the bed again. Yo, I make it get in the bed again. Yeah, know the king of fire. Gunners for life. One Gunners.
There is a strange happening in modern football. Some fans aren't watching their own club to celebrate success anymore. They're watching rivals just in case things go wrong. Not to learn, not to analyze, but to witness collapse. And if that sounds dramatic, it's because it is, but it's also increasingly normal. What we're really seeing is not new hatred, but a refined emotional habit, rival-focused viewing as a substitute for club-focused joy. Psychologists have a name for the core emotion behind it. Schadenfreude, pleasure in another's misfortune. But football has upgraded into something more sustained, more organized, and far more obsessive. This isn't a passing reaction to a goal conceded or a missed chance. It's a pattern of attention, a weekly check-in on rivals' emotional weather, waiting for storms. In that sense, modern fandom has split into two. On one side, supporters who still anchor their identity in their own club's progress. On the other, supporters whose emotional rhythm is increasingly dictated by rivals, especially those who are doing well. Because success changes the psychology of attention. The better a team becomes, the more it attracts a second audience. Not admirers, but auditors. People scanning for cracks. People refreshing scorelines not to celebrate football, but to confirm a narrative. Call it rivalry. Call it envy with better branding. Either way, it is attention that feeds on imbalance. And this is where clubs like Arsenal become fascinating case studies. When a team rises back into contention, competing for titles, pushing deep into Europe, it doesn't just gain supporters. It gains observers who are emotionally invested in interruption. Every missed trophy becomes a talking point. Every setback becomes a reference point. Every success is framed with a, but if to say, no, now because say, and the result is a strange inversion. The club is no longer just being watched for what it is achieving, but for how close it comes to not achieving it. That is the heart of hate watching. There's a deeper human logic underneath it. Social identity theory suggests we define ourselves not only by who we support, but by who we are not. Rivalries become psychological mirrors. When your club is not winning, it can feel easier to watch someone else lose. It's emotional accounting. If I cannot rise, I will at least confirm that you did not fully escape either. But there is a cost to that kind of attention. It shifts fandom from construction to surveillance, from joy to monitoring, from belonging to comparison. And comparison left unchecked is rarely neutral. It needs an outcome. Ancient wisdom saw this pattern long before social media. Envy, it warned, does not just observe, it corrodes the observer. It turns outward focus into inward depletion. A restless eye never satisfied with its own view. Modern platforms have simply accelerated what was already there. the ability to watch more football without loving more football. So the question is not whether rival fans will keep watching Arsenal or any other successful side. They will. The real question is, what happens when attention is no longer driven by love of your own club, but by the emotional management of someone else's success? And no trophy was ever won by a spectator waiting for someone else to fail. Abi? To Mikel Arteta and the Arsenal family. Some seasons are measured in trophies, others are measured in transformation. The 2025-26 campaign will be remembered as both. Arsenal FC finally stepped fully into its modern identity. Disciplined, brave, and relentlessly competitive. In the Premier League, they didn't just win the title, they controlled it. Long stretches of composure under pressure, late season nerve, and a squad that no longer blinked when history came knocking. The league crown returned to North London, ending a 22-year wait and closing years of near misses with something more permanent than hope. Proof. At the center of it all stood Mikel Arteta, part architect, part disciplinarian, part believer in standards that don't bend for sentiment. His Arsenal no longer chases momentum, they manufacture it, consistent enough to make excellence look ordinary. And then Europe. The UEFA Champions League run had that strange quality only elite teams manage. It felt inevitable and fragile at the same time. Unbeaten for long stretches, dismantling giants, surviving nights that would normally break younger sides. It was in every meaningful sense a near invincible campaign until the final edge of it. A final decided not by collapse but by margins. Penalties against PSG. The kind of ending that does not diminish a run but sharpens it in memory. No shame in it. Just the cruel arithmetic of knockout football. What remains is a double truth. Domestically, champions. In Europe, almost untouchable. That combination is usually where dynasties begin. Arsenal did not just have a good season. They established a standard. Control the league, terrorize Europe, and arrive at finals expecting to win, not merely hoping to belong. Somewhere between the title lift and the penalty heartbreak, something older returned to the club. Expectation without apology. And that, more than any single trophy, is the real turning point. Up Gunners!